Here's the line that I haven't quite gone back to, so I'll plane that first of all, and I've got a similar one on the other side that I'll do too. And we're done. Good. That bit, and same with the other bit. There's the bit we've missed, or I've missed. And we're now back to where we should be. The next thing I'm going to do is use my marking gauge just to check that all these shelves are the right thickness. That's good. Face side. Fine. Fine. Face side. Yep. Bit narrow, if anything, there. You can see the point is able to go quite a long way down the side, but we'll hope that won't affect the overall product. Good. Good, no need to plane any of those. So these are absolutely ready. The only thing I need to do now is to take off any pencil marks on the sides rather than the edges. The edges we can leave, we're going to plane those up. The sides I don't want to get in there with a pencil. With an eraser or with glass paper later. We'll do it now while I remember. There are no marks on the inside of the side pieces. And we've just got our face side mark that I've got to remove from here. Here. Good. And now we're ready to pull this whole thing together. Very exciting. See how it works. First of all, I'll get my shelves in order the right way round so that my arrow is pointing in the right direction. Top, bottom and 2 shelves. That's done. Make sure my side pieces are the right way around. So I've got, these are my face sides, these are my face edges, face side, face edge. Arrow in the right place. They go like that, and we'll start off with one of the shelves, see if that fits. Put that out of the way so you can see. Yep, I'm going to make sure that the sides of the shelf are flush with the side of the side piece, so that fits in nicely. We'll put the next shelf in above that. It's a bit of a loose fit, that one, but not so loose that it's worrying, so that's good. Got a little bit of a gap here which is not great, but will be forgivable. I'm going to put that on there and that in there. Now that fits well in here. This is a bit tight, and I don't. And that's done it. Good. If it was any tighter than that, I'd have planed that shelf a bit, I think, so that I wasn't having to force it in with the cramping mechanism we're going to use. And there's very little rock in that, which is nice to see. Let's try the top and bottom now. Top fits in nicely. A little bit of overlap, which is what I wanted really. And on this end, that fits in well, but it's slightly overhanging. Oopsie, slightly overhanging. Not so much on this side, but on this side. This is pretty flush. This is overhanging by almost a millimetre. So I think some adjustment there is going to be necessary. Let's get a steel rule on there and see what's going on. Yeah, this is 13.5. 13.5, and this one just under 14, just under 14. Let's just check what's going on there. This is forgivable. I can just plane a whisker off this, it won't be noticeable. This is not forgivable. This is too bigger an overhang. And I know that this needs to be pulled out a bit. I'm just going to check the height of the drawer cavity a minute. That's just under 35. Sorry, just under 65. This is spot on 65. And yet this was the one that we wanted to take a bit off. Oh dear. Right. I can live with these drawers being under 65. I can't live with this being under 14. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to remark this, and I'm going to make this slightly shorter. Because this is just an arbitrary 65, it doesn't matter, but this has to fit the bottom. Let's do that. One of those situations where you can't ignore the mistake, you've got to deal with it. Same as we did last time, same grip, taking off just a little bit at a time, checking the chisel's nice and vertical, and using the first cut as a reference for the next. Good. Right, let's try that. Fits in there nicely. And this is the bottom, the bit we were interested in. And there's a little bit of a gap here, but I think that will pull up okay. And the great thing is that is now flush with that bottom surface. Brilliant. So the next thing is gluing up. Now this has turned out quite well, and it might well be that yours won't. From my experience of teaching this project, most people get a reasonably good result, but it could be, for instance, that you've cut this housing too wide and you're going to have a very sloppy fit for the shelf. If it's not too bad, you can glue it up anyway and you can fill in the gap later with some filler. If you've got a particularly bad gap and it's wider than about a millimetre and a bit, you can use a coffee stirrer to fill the gap. So as you're gluing it up, you push the coffee stirrer into the gap, glue it up with the rest of the joint, and when you come to clean the thing up, you can use a chisel just to slice that off and clean up that corner so that you end up with something that's almost not noticeable. If it's too tight a fit, you've got to check which element of the joint is too small or which element of the joint is too big. If the housing is too small, it's just a question of opening it out, as I've shown you. If the fancy an ice cream, or if the shelf is too wide, you can just plane it down until it fits the housing. So there you are. There's some ways around the problem, but it's amazing what a little bit of filler will hide, and I wouldn't get too depressed if yours doesn't look quite like this. Normally, when I'm gluing up these spice rack carcasses, I use sash clamps or trigger clamps that are quite expensive to buy, and I thought I'd try an alternative solution, which is using picture framing clamps like these. These happen to be made by a company called Nobex, but there's a variety of manufacturers who do them. And the only disadvantage of using this is that you can't get quite the same amount of pressure on the joint as you would if you had a trigger clamp or a sash clamp. So this is how you use these things. You put a black moulded piece around each of the corners, and I want to just pull them over so that they're just to the left, but evenly just to the left of that shelf, so that I can see what's going on with the joint, and I can see when the glue's squidging out. So that'll pull the whole thing together that way, and then to get these top and bottom bits in place, I'm going to put a thing called a band clamp, which is one of these, around the whole thing, and that should really put some tension on the whole structure and make sure all the joints are nice and tight. You put the webbing around the corner pieces like we did with the picture framing clamp. You pull the webbing tight, then you flip over this cam lever that will trap the webbing in that position, and then all you do is to put some tension on the whole structure by turning the handle, and it's a very clever design. Now what I'm doing is checking that all the corner pieces are at the same height, so I'm not pulling the thing into a twist. And before I tighten the thing up really tightly, I'm just checking that the top and bottom are nice and flush with the sides, and then I can put the whole thing under tension. You're looking for a low D, a little bit high, a bit higher, maybe something like an E. Is this together? Yes, the joints are all looking tidy. They'll look even better when the glue's in. Just check the other side, make sure that looks all right. And the last thing I've got to check is that the whole thing is square. And it's not quite. There's a little gap here, and there's a corresponding gap there. So the whole thing needs to be slid in this direction. So this needs to go in that direction, and this needs to go in that direction. Fine. That is beautifully square. Now the reason I put this together dry is what you should always do when you're doing this sort of work, is to make sure there are no woodworking problems that I need to sort out. You don't want to put glue on, then suddenly find that something's not square, you've done something wrong, and you've got glue drying and you're fighting against time to get it repaired, you've got glue all over your tools, etc. So this is what you always do. Glue it up dry. You have all your clamps or cramps set up ready to go quickly when the glue's in there. So next thing is gluing up. Very exciting.